And then all you have to do is just figure out the last little bit. I found if you keep it in that order, that's the psychological difference between being able to buy a little bit of real estate or build dollar by dollar, or just go like, okay, let's find the opportunity first and tailor the money to it. And all of a sudden, capital raising became very easy. Seller financing became pretty intuitive just because we just swapped the order.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, you know, I love entrepreneurial success stories. You know, there's an old saying, you can tell any story you want in Hollywood as long as it has a happy ending. Well, happy endings happen in life, too. Christian Osgood is with me now. Christian, you went from managing just 2 units to 38 in a matter of weeks, and you kind of never stopped. Now you're taking a breath. You're moving your home. You've accomplished your goals. Hey, let's hear your story.
Thanks for having me on. I love getting to share this story because it's been a little bit unusual, and I'm not a fan of real estate being get rich quick, but a lot of the adventure after 8 years of building happened in a relatively short period of time. So I am very excited to get to share some of the journey here with everyone.
Okay. So you had 2 units and you said, gee, this real estate thing is good. I want to do more. But, a lot of people do. How did you make the transition?
So I'd always wanted to own real estate as long as I can remember. I remember being a kid looking around and just having the realization every single building someone else owns. Like there's an owner for every single building. So there must be a way to play this game. I remember having that thought in like high school. Fast forward through college, I get my first job, second job, third job. I was told you have to save, buy real estate. And that's what I did. I had an 8-year career. I bought a single family, live and flip, did the house hack thing that I learned on Bigger Pockets. So I had a roommate, fixed up the condo, sold it for a pretty good profit. I eventually bought 2 duplexes. So I got the 4 units. I married my wife. The 2 units, cash flow to total, the 4 units, 2 rentals, cash flowed about $2,000 a month, which is the same as my mortgage in my little house in Renton, Washington. So my real estate was paying for my real estate, which felt pretty good until I looked back at my goals and I was like, wait a second. It's cool that my rentals pay my mortgage, but that took 8 years. I don't know that I want to wait another 8 years to get another $2,000 a month in cash flow. If the goal is financial freedom, the goal is retiring the wife, I have to find a way to accelerate this. Around that time, that's when COVID-19 hit. So we had all the businesses decided to shut down. And it was a great time to actually sit at home and think, what do I actually want to do and how would I strategize? I found the company in Tacoma, Washington that I worked at. And while my boss there was quite honestly, a terrible business person. I mean, he was not good at business. He was very good at creative finance. He was good at buying properties and then shortly after losing them. He could buy anything, he could raise money for anything, did not do the math on how to keep it. So I built my entire business off of the principle, how would I buy it and how do I never lose it? The answer to, I'll cut to the chase, the answer is long-term cash flowing fixed rate debt. Like that's what I came up with. I'm like, if you can fix your variables and your property pays you to wait and you own anything for a long period of time, it will make money. So I watched this guy buy all this stuff. And I'm like, boy, if he could just hold it all, he would be rich. So let's come up with a path to do that, which ended up being actually fairly simple. First significant deal I did was a 38plex. I had a business partner at the time, Cody Davis, my first ever business partner, one of many over the years. And he had figured out some of the seller financing stuff. He had, at the time, he was 21 years old with 30 rental properties. And I looked at that at the time, being 29, and said, hey, wait a second. You have no income. He'd only had one job, by the way. He had worked at Safeway for like 24 minutes. And I was like, this is not for me. So he had basically no job, no income, and had found a way to acquire and hold 30 rental units, 2 12plexes, 1 6. When I was interviewing him as one of my first owner meetings of how did you build what you built? He's like, well, I just found all we have to do is figure out where they cash flow and just lock into terms. I'm like, well, how would I get 30 units by 30 if I'm 29? And he's like, well, I don't know that I can help you because I need to take out a 38 unit building and I've wanted to take this out forever. I need a partner to share the work with. What if we partnered and took out this 38 together? And so that was the first deal we did, seller finance.
So cool.
5% financed by the seller. So day one, starting, our deal was 85% funded. All we had to do is go, okay, we found a building that we want to buy. We think we can make this cash flow. It is going to be a project. Mm-hmm. 2 guys who can work on this basically full time. And it's already 85% funded. We just have to find 15% of the money. I think we can do this. And so we put it under contract and away we went.
That's an incredible story. So then you said, hey, this is nice. Let's do it again. So it became like wash, rinse, repeat, right?
More or less. And every deal is a little bit unique. You have to figure out what is the deal, what's the actual opportunity, what debt options are available. And again, that's how I got to the 85% funded. I'm like, okay, we're already 85% done. And then if you need to raise additional capital, you just figure out the equity piece last. It always goes in that order: deal, debt, equity. I see a lot of people try to figure out the money first, especially when you don't have any. Yeah, that's really what I think I got stumped on for a lot of years, is I don't have the money, so I can't look at the deals.
Right. Yeah, that's something I think of it. I mean, I bought and sold real estate. Some of my best windfalls in life have come from real estate, residential and non-residential. Lost money on a few, but not a lot, and done flips. But the idea of like owner financing to find these deals has always eluded me.
It's kind of like anything else in real estate. Like I feel like there's always something that people are like, oh, well, there's this one piece that I haven't found yet. You get good at whatever you practice, right? And when I went around, I interviewed, just like I did with Cody Davis, the 21-year-old. I interviewed every single owner as an owner, not as a seller. And so I met all of these donors. And when I asked a bunch of people how they built their business, a really common thread that I found in the cities that I was asking in, a lot of them started with little money and started with a lot of creative finance. I was really common from a lot of the owners I spoke to in a bunch of different markets. So the people who I eventually bought from, for the most part, are the people who taught me how to buy, which made the pitch super easy. When you're talking to someone who just taught you how they built their entire portfolio with creative finance and why you need the cash flow. And then they're like, oh, by the way, I have a partner who would really like to sell out of these, 3 duplexes. You just pitch them the terms they just taught you to pitch. It's really hard to say no when someone pitches you on your own idea. And we've done that. It's worked so many times. Like it seems gimmicky. I think, especially the first time you hear it, it's like, oh, that's not going to work. And I've done that on we've done 23 transactions. I've done it Grant County, Washington, Mason County, Washington, King County, Washington, Erath County, Texas, also property in Houston, Laredo, McAllen, Texas. Like there's like 5 or 6 different markets I've done the same thing in. Not to mention our mentorship group done all over the country, but just personally, it's the same method. It's no paid leads. It's just it's a very relationship based sale. But when it opens up, is if you start with a deal, you can tailor the money however you want. Creative finance, all you have to do is what would make this deal work? What do they need? What do I need? How do we get there? If you just start with the money, it's pretty rigid. There's only so many deals that fit your money. If you know you can get 10% debt, you need deals that can cover the 10% debt. So you're only looking at deals that can do that. If you have a finite amount of money, you can only buy so much real estate. If you start with the opportunity, then find the available debt product, then all you have to do is just figure out the last little bit. I found if you keep it in that order, that's the psychological difference between being able to buy a little bit of real estate or build dollar by dollar, or just go like, okay, let's find the opportunity first and tailor the money to it. And all of a sudden, capital raising became very easy. Seller financing became pretty intuitive just because we just swapped the order of let's look at every deal.
So if I can paraphrase you, like most people put the cart before the horse, right? And instead you put the horse before the cart.
In this case, yes, because the goal in this metaphor would be to own as many horses as possible. So the goal being own the horses, the real estate is the engine that pays the money that funds all the deals. Ultimately, the real estate has to buy the real estate. So if you don't have enough money, you don't need to go find more money. You need to go find more real estate.
Yeah. Okay. I'll buy it. All right. So, hey, if I wanted to start using your system today, Christian, how would I go about doing it?
For my system, the first thing I would do, and there's a million paid mentorships out there. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. I would skip that step first. I think the first thing I would do is I would write down, what is your specific goal? That was a huge difference for me. My wife, we've always been weird politically in Washington, but over the past 5 years, it's gone downhill extremely fast. My wife is a teacher in the school district kindergarten. We went through the whole pandemic, her teaching kindergartners over Zoom in a really impoverished area too. So it was hard. Then she got injured at school. So we took our 10-year goals and basically said, hey, end of this year, I'm retiring my wife from teaching. I have to get the real estate there. When I set a target that mattered and I put a dollar amount to it, like what do I need to make per month to retire my wife?
Yeah.
That made the target really clear and there was urgency. So number one, set your target. Number two, go out and find the people in your market who've done this thing that you want to do. I just interviewed all the people who owned over 100 rental units in the little county of Grant County. There's a few larger groups, but for the most part, there's a lot of mom and pop people. It's like 10 main players. I just met those 10 people. And now you move from being an outsider to an insider. So I think the easiest thing for people to do is, one, know your target. Two, just find the other people who've already hit that target. Generally speaking, everything you want to do, someone else has already done. Just go find those people.
So you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
You don't at all. And I have a group called Multifamily Strategy, multifamilystrategy.com. I have we've had over 1,000 people go through our course and hundreds go through the mentorship program. I've coached people to do things, but I think the most important thing that I share with everyone is, while you can accelerate stuff in community, no one who has been successful in any mentorship ever would have not been successful by themselves. Everyone would have succeeded. If you can find a group of people doing the same thing, whatever it is you want to do, you can speed things up. But the first thing you really have to work on is you have to know yourself, know your goals, and then you have to be able to run the business yourself. Once you know what you're doing, then find like-minded people and get into some community somewhere, paid or unpaid. That's going to help you move forward faster and be able to answer your questions, cut down on what we call the stupid tax. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and that costs a lot. And Kerry, I'm imagining being in real estate, you've had some expensive lessons along the way as well.
Well, my father always said, anytime you get into a new business, you pay for lessons.
Yes.
And I found that to be extremely accurate. And, when in doubt, it's always proven true.
And it's good to know you will pay for your lessons either way. It is nice to do that up front instead of mid-project. It can be very expensive to not know what you don't know. Partway through our business, we bought a resort seller finance, $4.5 million waterfront resort, on the assumption that we've been good at real estate, we've been good at creative finance. Of course, running hospitality will be the same as running multifamily.
Oh, sure thing. Right. Yeah. Why are towels dirty? Why is the bed a mess? How come this room wasn't cleaned, right?
How do you run eight or nine employees on a small camp? Yeah. We survived that pretty much because we had already bought enough multifamily that we were good at. We got through that, and it eventually did make a good deal of money, but it was so expensive. The way that we structured it, the way that we ran it, the amount of time it cost. If I had just paid for the lesson of getting a mentor on any piece of the business, anyone could have looked at that and said, you do value add multifamily. You're an entry level housing guy. Don't buy a resort. I would have saved $1 million there. You know what would have really been helpful in the search for financial freedom? An extra $1 million early on would have been great.
Probably would have lost it if it was me. Hey, so what about people that go the Airbnb route? Obviously not what you're doing when you have too many units. It's just not really scalable, and you're effectively running a hotel, right?
Mm-hmm. So on my hotel is my resort it's a 20-unit resort. We also bought the house next door, which actually was a good play, and we bought a seller finance. They're all run on like an Airbnb. It's just a little bit more scaled. It's all on Airbnb, VRBO. So we run that type of thing. I would say, just like multifamily and single family takes a lot of time to scale. You have to do a lot of transactions. It could be a little bit harder to repeat success because there's not as many people who have huge portfolios of single family. It's kind of the same concept, at least I believe, in hospitality. If you want to go that route, don't buy a bunch of multifamily. Be a specialist in hospitality and buy bigger. Buy the boutique hotels, do the turnarounds on failing motels, spruce them up. Like those type of projects, much easier to scale. You would make more money. You could make a ton of money doing exactly what I did. Seller finance resort, Airbnb style, but that needs to be your business. That needs to be everything you do. You need to be the best at how do I list. It's a cool niche. You could outperform. Unlike multifamily, you can kind of do what the market's doing, maybe a little bit more. You have more ability to use your creativity to make money, but it's super time intensive. You're not going to do Airbnb style stuff. If you're doing Airbnb houses, I think that model is way oversaturated. Regulations kind of killing that. It's a hard way to make money. You can do it, but it's hard. If you love that model, I would get into the smaller, mid-sized buildings like what we bought. And if you would like a hotel on the Hood Canal, that does really well. I do not want to run hospitality, so you can have mine.
All right. Hey, if I could get a good deal on the owner financing, I'm definitely interested.
There we go. I know the prior owner would carry at least a couple million of it's probably about $5.5 million. I bought for $4.5 million, but I added a large piece of property to it. But yeah, I know you'd be able to sell or finance at least, 30-40% of it.
Yeah.
To start.
All right. You got me interested now. Hey, so one final piece of advice to anybody out there who is in your position and looking at real estate but hasn't pulled the trigger yet?
You haven't pulled the trigger yet. My biggest piece of advice would be don't add steps. I think we've been trained from first to second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way up to high school. For some, college. You get jobs to get money to save up for real estate. I added a lot of steps because I was told there's a lot of steps to do this. Ultimately, if your goal is to be an investor, the path to do that is to buy an investment property. And then congratulations, you've done the thing. When I bought my first duplex, it took me 2 years to buy my first 38plex. And it took me 2 years from there to be at 235 rental units in 2 states. It took me 8 years to save up and buy the first star rental property. I could have done that much quicker. Like look at my first partner, Cody Davis, or I have a buddy, Caleb Palmer, who bought his first property at 19. He's 21. If he's under contract for another 44 units, he's going to be at like 130 units this year.
Amazing. All right. Hey, we appreciate it.
Just buy the first property.
Just buy the first property. Love it. Hey, you got a question for Christian, myself? Shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. You'll find a link to Christian's site. Just give us your site now, Christian.
Yeah, multifamilystrategy.com.
Multifamilystrategy.com. Link is in the show notes to this interview on our site, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. While you're there, please sign up for your free newsletter. Christian, it's really been fun. We will definitely have you on again.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.